Better World Blueprint. Good humans doing good things.
Sometimes life can feel heavy. Politicians doing the wrong thing, climate change, crime. But as many people as there are that pull us down, there are those who lift us up. And remembering those people are out there, that gives me hope. It makes me feel lighter, which is what this podcast is all about. Introducing you to people who make the world better and make you feel more hopeful. I'm Siobhan Hunt, and this is A Better World Blueprint. There's a lot of pressure out there to live your best life, and that pressure can include only cooking and eating the best kinds of foods. It can be exhausting and expensive. Catie Gett is a naturopath, author, and founder of The Staple Store, and she decided it was time to make good, healthy, and affordable cooking accessible to everyone. The result is The Staple Store Cookbook, Volume 1. Hi, Catie. Welcome to A Better World Blueprint.
Hi, Siobhan. Thank you so much for having me. It's excellent to be here.
And it's excellent to have you. Look, let's go back to the very beginning before you wrote this book. What led you to becoming a naturopath and sort of following this path more generally?
So I loved naturopathy. I grew up in a whole food house and, I just gravitated towards naturopathy through all of my studies and then ended up finding myself doing a health science degree with naturopathy. I have always had a deep love of food. I come from a big foodie family. My dad is a fine dining chef and my mum owned catering companies growing up. And so I had a deep connection to food as medicine for a really, really long time, like even before I started studying naturopathy. And I finished my degree and I went into private practice, and I worked in health food shops all through my degree and loved it because you get to dispense all of your knowledge. And then I went into private practice and I was really busy and I loved it so much. But I missed community wellness. There's something very special about working in a health food shop. And I think it's the one I'd worked in while I was studying, I was there for 6 years. And so you watched babies turn into actual humans and children turn into teenagers, and you got to help them through their, all of their colds and flus and their mum's prenatal, postnatal stuff. So I opened up the Staple Store, and the whole idea is we didn't sell supplements. It was all food. So it was anything that we could dispense to you was all about whole foods being good for your health. And I really just wanted people to understand how simple eating a whole food healthy diet could be. That's where we started. And that was over 15 years ago now.
I mean, it seems like this was always your path, the book that you have now.
Yeah.
Which I think is, in some ways, it's really fortunate, but I know that it's probably not all been straightforward and easy. So tell me about what led you to writing the book. It seems like you did have an epiphany at some point. I mentioned earlier that wellness generally can feel overwhelming, exhausting, expensive, sort of makes you feel like living your best life, you just end up feeling not good enough because you just can't do all the things. It's just a huge to-do list of how to be amazing and healthy and happy.
Well, it's this aspirational wellness is it's designed to be aspirational. It's designed to be out of reach. And it's designed that way by marketing companies. Anyway, one of my besties rang and she was like, hey, last week I came to your house and I watched you just open a can of beans and put pasta sauce in and then chuck in some spices, heat it up, and then you made us burrito bowls with leftovers in the fridge. And she's like, it was so good. My kids would actually eat that. And I just need inspiration. So she's got 2 teenage kids. She can absolutely cook. She's just I just need you to take photos of everything that you and Chook eat for the next week. I just need I'm in a rut. I need some inspiration. And I was like, that's who I want. This is who I came here for. This is what I came to do. I came to make this easier for her and for all of these other people. And, I'd never talk on socials about opening a jar of pasta sauce and a can of beans. That was the cheat stuff that I did at home. That was I'd never really talked about on socials. It was always you can make this cake, just swap out the wheat flour for almond flour, and you can swap out you can use honey in a replacement for the white sugar. And it was like all of this stuff, which I thought was super helpful and like really nutrient dense and really helpful. But it was just like so elitist. And I had no idea. And so I started writing this cookbook, and then I started also like alongside started designing a naturopathic business that helped people kind of traverse the in-between. So naturopathy has like, I kind of see it as 3 ways to see a naturopath here in Australia. Is one, you can see a good naturopath in a health food shop for free. You can see a good naturopath in clinical practice for thousands of dollars worth of investment, or you can listen to all the stuff on the social media, which there is a plethora of. And so I started writing a Substack, and I started designing this business, and then I was also writing the cookbook at the same time. And I was, engaging on social media and talking about the cost of living crisis, talking about food insecurity, and was trying to really just build up this stuff. But I just felt like there was just like an incongruency. I was talking about this stuff but not really offering much because I was trying to build these businesses up. And so one day I was driving home from the movies and I was like, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. And I pulled over and I put up on Instagram our most profitable commercial recipe. And these recipes had been locked behind NDAs from because they were being commercially manufactured. And I was like, I'm just going to give it away for free. And the response was really beautiful from our community. They were like, this is awesome. This is amazing. And I was like, yeah, like I'm not here to make profit from products anymore. You guys have the recipe. Everyone was like really happy. And then the next day I was like, oh, I don't think you guys realize you can make your own little production kitchen. You could have not so dal, this red split lentil mix where you put the spices in and you can chuck it in a rice cooker and just with a can of tomatoes and water and just walk off. And I was like, you can do all of that a few times and then you can have your not so dal ready for the year. And so I did a really like low-fi video of me doing this, and I loaded it up. And then the next day I woke up to like 10,000 new followers. Jennifer Garner had shared it. It was huge. And I was like, oh, and then all of a sudden
how on earth do you get into Jennifer Garner's
zeitgeist?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. But it's like, because then there's like Jennifer Garner and then Melissa McCarthy and Charlotte Gainsborough and then like and Dawn French, that the story goes on. So like wow. And then so all these people are messaging me from around the world going, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm experiencing food insecurity. And then I started looking at food insecurity. I'd never really looked into it before. Like I have friends that actually work for like Food Bank and St. Vinny's and like knew what they did, but just didn't understand what it was. And then I started looking more into it and I was like, whoa, it was such a big issue in Australia and a big issue in places where I just didn't believe food was insecure. And I was kind of really blown away and I was like, okay, this is it, guys. Like we have to like shelf those other businesses. We need to like really get into making these cookbooks. And then I made another recipe. I'm half Irish, so it was a soda bread recipe. And I was like, oh, soda bread's normally made with self-raising flour and buttermilk in Australia is really expensive. Let's like make it with water and vinegar. So I put that up. That also went viral. And that was where Melissa McCarthy, she reposted that one. And it was kind of like, for me, it's like this big departure as a naturopath going, here's like get self-raising flour, vinegar and water and make bread. And I'm like, because before I would have said use wheat flour. And I never, ever would have said like use a fortified flour from a supermarket. But what I needed to do was like to show people that they could make a loaf of bread for 67 cents. And that got a huge response. And then I was like, really tongue in cheek, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this one. And I just got the can of beans and the pasta sauce and I poured them into a saucepan and I stirred it and I was like, dinner's ready. That one didn't go viral, but it blew my heart open. It was when I started getting messages from people that were social workers and in assisted living, people with chronic disease, people with disabilities, just going, thank you for making this health food. And I was like, oh my God, it needs to be this simple.
Can you tell me, you had such a strong desire to make the cookbook and it sounds like a lot of reinforcement in terms of the need for the cookbook. Yeah. But it also sounds like you were in a reasonably precarious financial situation. Was that the biggest challenge in making this a reality?
No, that wasn't the hard bit. That wasn't the hard bit. That was the drive. That was the impetus. Like, that was like, the hard bit was like juggling all of it. But no, like I didn't realize we were living below the poverty line until I was listening to Jess Hill talk on the radio, and she was like, 30% of single parent households live below the poverty line and 50% of female-led single parent households live below the poverty line. And it was when I got really hit by my privilege that I can cook was the only reason I didn't experience food insecurity. So we lived below the poverty line, but I could turn like really cheap ingredients into food. I was like recipe testing this cookbook whilst we're living below the poverty line. And it became the most important part. And so from that, I was messaging, I put out on social media, I was like, hey guys, can anyone test this recipe? Because one, I can't afford to remake it, and my kid is so sick of eating it. And so we ended up having recipe testers from all over the world, and there was like tricky cake mixers that we couldn't get to work, and there was like chefs on the other side of the world and other naturopaths, and there was like all of these people that were helping to recipe test the cookbook. So it became a community book, but it meant it was actually much more important than that, because what it meant is that it was being recipe tested in real homes. And a lot of these recipes were our commercial recipes, so they had been tested in hundreds of homes, thousands of times anyway. But the iterations, the ones that we had made to make them cheaper than what we would have in the store, they needed to be made again and again and again, and they needed to be made with the largest bandwidth for error.
Well, it sounds like the challenges you've had along the way with your desire to allow this accessibility to healthy eating and healthy cooking. Cooking here seems to be the key word. It seems like most of the challenges you faced have been solved by community and that connection to community that you had in the past from the store, but also what you created through your Instagram and your approach to things. Does that resonate with you, that was part of the solution to when things got tough? I mean, even crowdfunding to get the book off the ground, that's entirely based on community support.
I don't like, a good part of the cookbook is me talking about how we got here. And I'm going to cry. Without this community, I don't know how I would have survived up until now. And I'm not talking just financially, but like, I became a single mum when my daughter was 1, and I was held by the entire community that was our brick and mortar. And I'm like, not just my staff, but my customers and local business owners, like everyone. I would go to a cafe across the road and the wait staff would take my daughter while I ate breakfast, and just like things like that they were amazing. Like, I had customers pack up my house, and customers came and would look after my daughter. And even that on a really kind of physical level, they were always there for me. Yeah. It's been really beautiful. Like, when we started doing the crowdfunding, I'd put in calculators into Kickstarter, and I was like, I need 50,000. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Do 10,000. And I was like, I'm got to make a 200-page cookbook. Like, I'm $10,000. It covers no part of this. And then it was like, okay, 30,000. And they're like, a cookbook in this category will not get above 30,000. And I was like, and I rang one of my best, dearest mates, and she was like, do it. You've just got to do it. And so I'd put 50 in, and then it's the first 24 hours of the crowdfunding, people were like, my friends that are in marketing were like, babe, we've never seen anything like this. This crowdfunding has gone faster than anything we've seen before. And like, even campaigns we've built have not gone on this trajectory. But the problem with crowdfunding is that, like, and I've done it before, if you don't meet 50% of your target within the first 48 hours, it's unlikely to succeed. So this had gone
Wow.
gangbusters, but we were just shy of 50,000, the 50%. I was like, we're not going to make it. It's not going to make it. And but the campaign lasts for 4 weeks. So for 4 weeks, I was like having to turn up and go, okay, like this, I know you guys have supported it, but like whatever you can do, keep supporting it, like spread the word, like let's do this. And we ended up hitting it. And no, not only did we hit it, we exceeded it by like 20,000. And which meant that the book could get bigger and like a bit funkier. And so it's pretty awesome. I'm so incredibly grateful to my community.
I'd say you've answered this in other parts of what we've talked about here, but has this work changed you?
I'm just going back to the core of what I came here to do. So I don't think I've changed. I don't think I've changed necessarily as a person, but my mission has changed. And I've realized, I didn't realize for 15 years I was sitting in an echo chamber. I didn't realize that I was like sitting in a small room at a small table telling people that like swap your wheat flour out for almond flour. Like I was saying things that were so incredibly elitist, but having the not being able to see it. Like I could not see. And so like living below the poverty line has made me understand that, you know, whole food, like I've always wanted to say to people like whole food and cooking yourself is like, that's how you are healthy. And it's not all of this fancy stuff with gold foil, heavy marketed stuff, the new like fad, the new supplement you've got to take, the new like super powder you've got to take. That's not health. Health is really, really simple and very basic. And I think that what's different about me now is I'm not talking to this small room anymore. I'm talking to a large room of people with all the doors and windows open so that everyone is welcome into the world of wellness and health, so that they know that like they have that health is not a right, is not a privilege, it's a right. And everyone is welcome here. And it doesn't matter if you can't afford the superfood powders. It's like I think that's what's changed is that I've realized that I can help a lot more people than I have been.
And have you been able to see the impact of your work? I know that sometimes these things take time, but have you had any feedback or seen how it has helped other people?
Daily. I have like, it's called the pool room, and I screenshot all of them, all the messages I get from people, and I put it in a special file. And yeah, it's every day. And then I was speaking to my friend who works as an NDIS provider, and she was like, oh, babes, like this is like you don't realize what you're doing, but you're making people be able to cook without an open flame. And she's like, that brings a lot more people to the table. I was like, oh, I just hadn't thought about this before. So those things have changed. Like,
so for people who don't have a stove, is that what she means?
People that don't have, or people with low vision that can't be like, or people with learning disabilities. There's like, it opens up to people that aren't able to stand at a stove. And like living below the poverty line was such an enormous blessing. And the truth is, my daughter was like, this is like the best we've ever eaten. She was so excited. She loved it so much because I was like cooking, because before it was like, you know, we were still on a budget, but like everything was organic. It was from the farmers markets, and like everything was like, we didn't have as much access, and I was like definitely not cooking with white refined flour. And she's like, this is the best. Like, keep making cakes like this. Can we have icing now?
That's amazing. Look, Catie, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's such an incredible story, and now I really want to cook something from your cookbook. Yeah. That's Catie Gett, naturopath and author of the Staple Store Cookbook, Volume 1. For more information about the book, check out the notes in this episode. I'm Siobhan Hunt. See you next time.